All right, hello all. Okay, today we're going to talk about the prolog box model. So it's one way to understand the procedural reading of the top-down inference model we've been looking at. And it's also a way to understand the prolog debugger, and it's also the way that prolog compiles into machine code, so I can get very efficient code. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to view the a procedure. So what's called a procedure is all the predicates for an argument as is in terms of this box model. And so you can call it, it can exit with an answer. So it can exit with saying, yes, it's proved. We can ask to retry, or we can fail. So this is the model. Okay, so let's look at this. So here's a model so if we have the clauses A, if, B, and C, and so the procedure for this is all the clauses for A. So here's the box for A. So the box for A says when we call A, if you call A, then what happens is that we end up calling B. That's B. Okay. When B exits, we call C. When C exits, A exits. Now I can retry as for asking for another answer. So when we ask for another answer for C, we ask for another answer for A, we then ask for another answer for C. If C fails, then we try and find another answer for B. And if B fails, then A fails. So that's the model here. So notice we have exit on the right again, retry, and fail. Okay. If I have rules that say B if E, B if E, and B if F, so this is seen now as the procedure for B. So let's write the box model for B. So in B, if we call B, then immediately we call E. If E succeeds, then we exit. Okay, so if we're calling B, we call E. If E succeeds, we exit with B with an answer. Okay. Now if, however, we ask for another answer, if we ask to retry B, so if we ask to retry B, what happens is we ask to retry E. Now if E fails, we call F. So if E fails, we call F. Okay, if X succeeds, we go to exit. If we retry this procedure again, we're going to call F, and if F fails, then the call to B fails. Okay. So the only tricky thing in here is when we retry, we have to retry whichever one succeeded. So if E succeeded, we retry E. If S succeeded, we retry F. So it has to remember which of these two clauses succeeded. Okay, and that's basically the model. So if we have, so we're just going to call things. If we have no clauses for E, clauses for E, then the model for the box model for E, it says as soon as we call E, it fails. So if we call it, it fails. It never succeeds, it never exits, so we're not going to do anything. So it's not going to, there's no need for an exit because we're never going to exit, and therefore we're never going to retry. Okay. Suppose there's a simple clause for F. Suppose there's just a fact F, and now we can have, now if we call F, it immediately succeeds. If we retry F, it fails. Okay, so let's look at this. So this is B, and suppose we have C if F. Okay, so now what we're going to do is now we're going to see if F says we're going to call C, we're just going to call F. C, if we call C, we just call F, and it exits. If we retry F, we're just going to retry C. So when we retry C, we're going to retry F. When F fails, C fails. So let's look at what happens when we have the query of A. It first of all calls A, so then it calls B, so then it calls E. Well, what does E do? Well, E immediately fails, it goes down here, and then calls F. So F succeeds, we exit here, and therefore that's B is exiting. So then we call C. C is going to go down here, it's going to call F, it is going to exit, and so the answer here is exit. If we ask for another answer, it's going to retry C. So it's going to retry C, it's going to retry F, it's going to exit here. It's going to retry B. Retry B is going to recall F, but retrying F failed, so it's immediately going to fail. So it's going to say true, and then we're going to type semicolon, and it's going to say false. Okay, so in Prolog, what you can do is you can actually try doing the prompt, try doing trace, and then doing A, and it's going to tell you what's going on here. The only thing that's different to what we did before is this one here is called a redo of B. So this is a redo of B is this thing here. So this one here is printed by the tracer as a redo of B. Okay, try that and we'll play with it more in class.